Hi, welcome to the news episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adit Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about NFL Week One, Virginia Tech, recapping the win against Middle Tennessee, as well as previewing West Virginia. But I want to bring up this news that recently just came up this morning, and there's been this.
Honestly, I haven't even checked the sports stuff this morning. What was this report?
So essentially, what it is that the Mets are like, and so the rumors are that they might be interested in bringing Billy Beane as president of baseball operations, and then Bob Melvin as the manager, as kind of like a combo deal, and then they would just take over the Mets at that point. So like, I want to hear your thoughts. Like, we don't know if this is true, but like, what are your thoughts on that potential idea of Billy
That
Beane
that would
going
be
to the
kind of interesting. I guess it would kind of set the Mets straight, at least a
yeah.
little bit, because I mean that team's not making the playoffs this year. I mean they're 3 games below 500. They're 5 games back. I mean, really the only playoff spot that's up for grabs right now is that second wild card anyway, with the Padres and the Cardinals and the Reds all battling for that last one. But I think it would make sense for them just because they've been in such disarray for so long, and I think that would bring some much needed stability to them. Now, will they do it? I'm not sure, but they gotta change something up there because whatever they've been doing is not working.
Yeah, no. So for me, I want to say this. Like, Billy Beane, we all know he was the main part of Moneyball. Bob Melvin has been a part of the Oakland A's for a long time.
Mhm.
The but then here's the other factor. The Ste the owner of the Mets. He now remember Steve Cohen, one of the richest owned people in the planet right now.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's probably a big reason why he was rich. But the point is, you have you have Steve Cohen, then you got Billy Beane and Bob. Yeah, Steve Cohen who's willing to spend money, and then Billy Beane and Bob Melvin who's more conservative in how they spend it. So it'll be that interesting balance of the Moneyball analytics, but also being given having the freedom for $120 million budget. And how does I think it's gonna be pretty interesting. Like anytime you see these guys, like a Heim Bloom who was with the Rays for a little bit, and then he goes from the Rays and their thinking to the Red Sox into a bigger market. It's interesting. It's interesting to see. It's gonna be interesting to see how those like you know what I'm saying, right? Like that approach in that market, how that works with each other. So I think this is a safe choice. It's a good choice. I've seen Max Melvin as the manager. Uh, no offense to Luis Rojas, I think Bob Melvin is a very good manager for what he's been able to do with the Oakland A's roster. Because name me a star other than Matt Chapman. Name me a star on that team.
I'd say Coco Chris, but he's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, but you see my point. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's my thing. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see what they the next one is if I can just the Washington football team versus the Giants. What were your quick thoughts
The
on that one?
Giants are a mess, man. I mean, that team is just in total disarray. I'm pretty sure in the last few years that Daniel Jones has been there, I think he's only beaten the Washington football team. I don't think he's ever won against any other team, if I'm not mistaken. It's that bad. They have a lot of problems there, man. I mean, the owner is lost. The GM's not good. Joe Judge is probably not the best coach. And, they're just going to waste Saquon Barkley until his rookie deal's up. He's probably going to walk if they don't get this stuff under control. Daniel Jones, he's not a starting quarterback in this league. He never was when he came out.
Yeah,
He was sorry about that. He was a top 10 pick in the draft. I mean, he was never going to live up to that. And the Giants decided to take him over a lot of other really good quarterbacks that were out there. And They doubled down. They're doubling down on him. They tripped down on him last night, and it's going to the crapper right now. Their offensive line stinks. Their defense is not that good. The fan base, which is very proud, I think is pretty tired of it. So I'm curious to see what happens to them as the season goes on. That team is just a total mess, and they have good players, receivers wise. I mean, Evan Ingram as a tight end, if he's healthy, he's really good. I talked about Barkley, but I'm pretty sure they have Kenny Galladay is there.
Kenny Galladay's there. Sterling Shepard is there. Darius Toney was their first round.
Yeah, they have weapons, but it's just they can't get the ball thrown to them. And again, they're just poorly coached, they're poorly managed, and they're poorly owned. And the fan base, I think, up there is really sick of it. It's nice to see Washington get the win. I was pretty surprised that Taylor Heineke was able to do that. I'm not a fan of that team this year, just because Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, is expected to miss almost half the season. So he's going to have to win some games before Fitzpatrick comes back. But, that was just a total NFC East matchup. It's nothing like, there's nothing out there like it when you watch football. The NFC East is just its own breed. Just what were your thoughts on it while watching it?
So first of all, your comment about the NFC East. So Dane Graziano was on ESPN, and he tried to use this comparison kindly, but he basically said, and the NFC East is like New Jersey. Like everyone craps on it. But yeah. So I mean, he tried to use it on positive. The Giants are a mess. Dave Gettleman, I don't know why he has a job. Joe Judge. Look, Andy Reid has a good coaching tree. Andy Reid's coaching tree is fantastic. Bill Belichick's coaching tree?
No.
So I don't know why that was the case. And I know Joe Judge was a special teams coach, but Bill Belichick and Harbaugh, I think Belichick might have been teams coach. I know Harbaugh was used as an example for the special team, as like the special teams coach that makes it. Bill Belichick might have been one, someone else might have been one. But the point I'm making is Joe Judge was not like no one really understood that hire. I remember when he was hired, I just saw like, who's this guy? And I didn't understand that.
I had no idea who he was. Legitimately no clue. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I don't understand what the Giants. I don't understand what the Giants are doing. But yeah, you're right. Barkley's done after this year. They're gonna. Luckily, there's gonna be 7 or 6 or 7, maybe 5 to 6 quarterbacks available in the first round this year. Maybe they go and take one of those guys. I will see what they do. I mean, I could definitely see them doing that. Offensive line, whoever's in charge of scouting the offensive line needs to be fired.
Yeah, their line has been so bad
because they have offensive line for about even before that. Even before that. I mean, I remember they drafted Eric Flowers at one point. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Andrew Thomas hasn't really done anything.
Who they signed from New England? Who did they sign him?
Nate Solder.
He was terrible for them. Just awful.
Yeah, so they don't really have a good team. Dave Gettleman, he ruined the Panthers. He ruined the Giants. I don't know why he's still there. I mean, maybe they go and get like the the scouting director from the Chiefs as their new GM. What they really need is they need to go to one of these teams like the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Ravens, like these the Colts, like some of these good these teams that drafted well, and just go after their scouting director. Yeah, because they don't really have some of these talent. These smaller second tier. Let me put it this way: they have high ceiling guys, right? Barkley, Galladay, Shepard. You could say is high ceiling, close to it, right? Kadarius Toney's potential is there. Evan Ingram is high potential as well. they don't have a good floor. I think that's my interpretation. They have some high ceiling guys, but they don't have a floor. So it's like once you get past those four, Bradbury is okay. Logan Ryan, they got some good people in secondary.
Yeah.
Once you get past the first few people, their floor is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And you need that depth of players to be competitive, even in the NFC East. Now, Washington football team, I don't buy Tyler Heineke as a long-term starter. I think he's a good backup. I like Torrey Smith, but I don't understand why Torrey Smith is saying, "Oh, this guy's a long-term future in the league." Obviously
That
they have
division,
some other issues
that
too, like
division
what their
really
name is going to
interesting.
be.
I think that the Washington team, they have the best defense in the division. I don't really think that's arguable, to be honest. I don't really think the other
No,
two.
that's not even arguable. Like that's a
Yeah,
fact.
yeah. I mean, their D line is disgusting, and even their secondary and their linebackers are really good too. But can they have the offense to win them games when Fitzpatrick is not there and compete with Dallas's offense with Prescott healthy? That's going to be, I think, the big question.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just end on this point. They have Terry McLaurin. Do they have another backup? Like Logan Thomas is good, but do they have that second receiver outside
Yeah,
of?
McLaurin is really good. That
Yeah,
guy is. Oh wow.
yeah. So we'll move on to the next topic. I'll talk a little bit about the Ravens. You talk a little bit about the Steelers. The Ravens did play against Oakland.
Oakland.
Yeah, no, sorry. But they played against Vegas. It was definitely a brutal loss for sure. Let me get to Villanueva. Let me just get to that point really quick. So
I
I
was
didn't
going to
want,
bring that up. Go
I
ahead.
yeah, I didn't want to say that he's playing bad. So like, what I did was there. Okay, so after this video, go and watch Cole Jackson. So he has a YouTube channel called Two Guys Watching Football or TGWF, and basically what he said was this, right? So Villanueva, he said he wanted to figure out. And here's the thing about Villanueva, right? So imagine I'm right here, okay, and this is at the start of the play. So the problem that Villanueva has, right? This was more in the first half than the second half. Is that when the play happens and Villanueva's like this, right? Imagine my shoulders as a hallway, okay? And imagine that my lane is like this, okay? Well, the problem, what you would want as a lineman is you would want the rusher, pass rusher, to match very as close as possible to what your hallway is. The problem is that the pass rusher's hallway, Villanueva's pass set was very shallow. So what he did, so the problem is he's here, but the pass rusher. Okay, so let me put it this way. Like, pay attention to my hands. Like he's here, right? So this is his lane. The pass rusher is here. So think of it like this. This is a commonality here, about half quarter, right? So if Villanueva going like this, the pass rusher can go like this. So the pass rusher can use a bull rush to get
Yeah.
past him. And so what happened in the second half is that Villanueva adjusted. And what Max Crosby, by the way, who had more sacks than Nick Bosa in 2019, I believe, or he was up there, he adjusted. So what he did was Max Crosby, instead of bull rushing and going on the outside, he would spin move and go on the inside, right? So
Mhm.
Villanueva in the second half. So the good thing is that Villanueva adjusted from the pass sets were a lot better. Now, obviously, Ronnie Stanley, he's not 100%. So we'll see if Villanueva can get better pass sets on the left side. We'll see what Macari can do on the right side. But the reason why I want to start off with that is to basically to clarify, to visually show where Villanueva was struggling, because a lot of people are saying Villanueva was bad or trash. He was bad. So I just wanted to show that I don't coach linemen. This is just my interpretation. It's just your lane has to match what their lane is. And I think that if Villanueva, if he can match up whatever the lane is for the pass rusher, and if what he can do is instead of saying you can't go on the outside, you have to try to, if you're going to try to bull rush, I'm going to stop you and force you to go make a swim. What it does is it gives Lamar more time for protection because now the pass rusher has to take another second to try to readjust. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, this is a long way of saying I think Villanueva can be an average tackle, which is what the Ravens need. He doesn't need to be above average, but but again, average, which is something towards the later part of the year. Now here's the second part. They have Nick Boyle wasn't in the game. Wasn't in the game. So with this Chiefs game, I think what they're going to do is they're going to use Eric Tomlinson as a chip blocker. They're going to use Bricard as a chip blocker. So whatever blocks that Villanueva doesn't do, Eric Tomlinson, who's not involved in the passing game, is going to be that. He's going to provide assistance there. So I think that they're going to try to have a game plan on that. We'll see if it works. Now, the other thing about the game, we talked about it. Like they lost 3. Someone brought up, and I was watching Trust the Bank podcast. They brought up the Ravens' run game is predicated on the read option. So there's a lot of timing, especially at the mesh point. They didn't have that. We'll see if that works. We'll see if that timing has improved. If that timing has improved, Bradley Bozeman was clearly snapping the ball good, right? He was snapping the ball well. Great. So it's just these small things here and there that there is, unless you really look at it, unless you really think about it. But to me, I think that these small things, like Lamar, like when it came to throwing to Hollywood, Hollywood caught all 6 of his passes. Like Sammy Watkins was good, and Sammy Watkins, all he needs to be is to complement Hollywood. Mark Andrews needs to catch that pass in overtime, absolutely. He needs to catch that pass. He needs to clamp on the ball. And if I was a coach, I would tell him, your job is to be a safety valve for Lamar. Just catch the pass 10 yards. Like, we don't need you to run 15 yards. Just catch it, hold it to your chest, and then you're good to go. Yeah. But I did see positive stuff from the offense. Odafe Oweh played well. He didn't, I believe, he got a sack. I really like that Odafe, unlike most pass rushers the Ravens have, he not only has the speed against weaker tackles right now to get past the tackle, but he can chase down the quarterback, right? And I think that's underrated for some other guys. So to me, I did see some negatives as well, but I think a lot of these negatives are timing, and I think a lot of these negatives are not going to be perfectly cleaned up. But I think that they can scheme around. So, what were your thoughts on the Ravens and Steelers games?
Were you concerned about the defense and just? I know I keep laughing just at Marlon Humphrey just like stopping on that overtime play. I mean, are you? Oh, I was going to ask you this. Are you concerned that your DC keeps calling these engage 8 blitzes too often? Because I feel, I mean, obviously it's high risk, high reward, but I feel like he's done a lot throughout his tenure there.
Oh no, Don Martindale would love to call a good blitz. I mean, the guy thinks that if he can't rush 4, then he'll rush 5. If he rushes 5, then no. If he can't rush 5, he'll rush 6. If he rushes 6, he'll rush 7. If he rushes 7, he'll rush 8. If he has to, he'll get a fan from the stands to rush the passer. Like literally, he might get the mascot to rush the passer, like Martindale, and that works. But to answer your question, it's chaos, but there's a difference between chaos and controlled chaos. Yeah. And I think that Martindale needs to get better when it comes to just scale it back a little bit with the controlled chaos. Now, that's why I think that Odafe Oweh is a great pick, because if you get those athletes out there, what you can do is you can say, okay, Odafe, you're going to go beat your. he also has the athleticism to do that. So it's like, think of it like, instead of having one or two guys doing the same, instead of having two or three guys do the same thing, if you can get more Odafe Always into that defense, Don Martindale's going to be a happy man because now you have one guy that can do the job of two people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I
to
mean,
answer your question, yeah.
it was a crazy game to watch. I mean, the Raiders just almost raided that twice. I don't know how you get down to the 1 yard line, you don't even score on that one. Then they almost screwed it up again, which is like, that was just crazy. And then, Carr's throw off his back foot was awesome. Seeing Marlon Humphrey kind of just stop there was a little funny, but I think he also knew that he wasn't going to get there. I thought Lamar played well. The fumble issue, I still think is a bit
that's the running back. But that's also a lot of it was the running back because think about it, right? He had that same issue in 2018 with Gus Edwards. So, but like I said, with the running back, with the read option, there's the mesh point, right? Like I'm gonna give the ball to you. If I'm bringing the ball back, here's what you should be doing. So like the fumbles, I think a lot of that was maybe a byproduct, one, of him being Superman when he doesn't need to be, and two, basically having three, like Latavius Murray hasn't really been in a read option offense before. Tyson Williams hasn't been in a high pressure read option. So the fumbles are a byproduct of those two. But yeah, Lamar definitely needs to take better control at certain times.
Yeah, and I definitely do agree with that. The overtime one probably has to throw it away there. I know he's obviously trying to make a play, but sometimes I think you just gotta throw it away at times.
Also, take the smaller play. Like if you see Mark Andrews 8 yards open, don't wait an extra second and try to throw the ball 40 yards. Lamar did do some of that. I wish he would do more of that because if he could do that quick, efficient passing game, it just makes him that much more dangerous because you have to going to free up Watkins and Hollywood. You see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Are you concerned going into this matchup against the Chiefs? Do you expect anything out of it, really?
I'll say this. One, protect Lamar. Two, I think there are two key matchups here to look out for. One is Chiefs' offensive line is young. It's looking like it's
Orlando Brown revenge game, Adi.
Yeah, Orlando Brown. He let one sack against Myles Garrett, so that's good. But you saw that game, like he did not, like he was. There were moments he looked like a turnstile. So, it's gonna be interesting. That's the first matchup. Whether you put Odafe Owe against him and you use his athleticism, or you put Justin Houston and his experience, that's gonna be key. Another aspect. But I think that if you look at their offensive line, Creed Humphrey, their center, is a rookie. Trey Smith is a rookie. Their right guard, their right tackle is Lucas Neong, who second year got but opt out last year, so rookie. Orlando Brown is learning how to potentially play left tackle in a pass first offense for the first time. And then Joe Tooney is pretty much your main veteran guy. So if they could take advantage of that, though, that might give them the advantage. Here's the other thing, right? Tyreek Hill. Here's an aspect that I don't think people are bringing up with Tyreek is he learned from Keith Williams the technical nature. Keith Williams is now with the Ravens, so I wonder if Keith Williams can provide more insight to Tyreek Hill and why he takes his first steps, what is his mindset, and whether guys like Anthony Avery can keep up with that. So those are my concerns. Like, were there anything about the Steelers before we quickly talk about Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I mean, just for a week, I heard Bills by 50, Bills by 100, all this garbage, and the defense made Josh Allen look very mediocre in that game. Allen did not start off the season well, was not hitting on almost any of his throws. The secondary was in lockdown mode the whole game. Fitzpatrick looked great. Even Terrell Edmonds, indeed, for as much as I dogged on him throughout his tenure here, probably had arguably his best game of his Steelers tenure. He was almost everywhere on the field. Joe Hayden looked really good. Their new rookie, Trey Norwood, who is taking the place of Steven Nelson, didn't look like a rookie in that game. He was targeted a few times and he ended up holding his ground. TJ Watt is unblockable. Everyone knows this, though. Made sure that he is making the money that he deserves with that strip sack fumble of Josh Allen. But obviously, the offense needs a lot to improve. You can't start out games like that. You're lucky that your defense kept you in the game long enough so that Ben and Canada were able to open up the playbook a bit in the second half and to scrap whatever the hell that game plan was. So it was good that they had one good half of football for the offense, but you can't keep doing that on a weekly basis. You saw what happened with that last year after you started out 11-0. We knew there were cracks in their game. They started to show even more down the stretch and then obviously into the playoffs as well. That said, I thought Ben overall mostly played a fine game. He was accurate on most of his throws. And it's average. That's really all you need from him at this point anyway. He's not going to blow you away with 500-yard games probably as much anymore. And, just stats-wise. But, as long as he's being at least average and he's not turning the ball over, they should still be a playoff team, I think, this year. And the defense, I think, is the best defense in the division, if not overall in the league. The fact that they went up to Buffalo and sent a message and basically just almost shut them out offensively, touchdown-wise, that whole game shows that, people need to, I guess, come back a little bit on their predictions. But, it is only one game. I could also look like a complete idiot after this. Let's see what happens against Vegas this Sunday. I thought Najee Harris looked – it's his first game. He looked better as the game went on. But Chase Claypool made some really nice catches. Some people in the fan base like to hate him. I don't even really give a crap if he talks crap. I don't really care if he does TikToks, if he's making catches like that I saw over Tre'Davious White, who's arguably the best quarterback in football. Juju had some really tough catches as well. And then, Danny Smith, the blocked punt with special teams. You don't really see that too often, but it was just a nice win to shut up a lot of these people around the media that have been hating on the Steelers for no reason and that don't know what they're talking about when it comes to this team, at least for a week. Let's see if that continues. Big test this week against Vegas. I think Pittsburgh should be able to win that game. Obviously, Darren Waller, that's going to be the big one. But I'm excited to see what happens. Also, of course, get Big Ben some help on the offensive line. That line was just under duress all game long, and I thought Ben was basically going to die sitting in that pocket almost every time he threw the ball. So overall, more positives than negatives. Again, you need better offensive line play. You need to finish drives, especially in the first half and early in the second half. You just have to be more consistent on the offensive side of the ball. If your defense can play like that or close to that level almost every game, they're going to keep you in every game and give Ben the chance to win you most games down the stretch. So definitely excited about the win, but big home test now against the Raiders. And I don't really think Derek Carr is that good, but Darren Waller is a good tight end. They have some decent wide receivers. The running game is not bad. And their defensive and their front seven is also not terrible as well. So should be an interesting game.
Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, I agree. I think the receivers are slightly underrated. I think Edwards is a good route runner they have. Henry Ruggs can take the top off of defense. Hunter Renfrow, clearly you spent the 20 years he spent at Clemson really well. So I mean, they definitely have options. Like I said, I think their pass rush is a lot better. Like Ngakoue, Max Crosby. So I mean, they're definitely a good team. So we'll see what they do there. So we'll talk about the last few minutes on Virginia Tech. What was the reaction to the Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and what's your thoughts on that?
That's what you're expected to do. You're favored by 20. You cover the spread. It went by 21. It wasn't, the best of wins. They started out sluggish. I think it was only like a 7-point lead at the half. That's not what you're looking for when you're playing almost an FCS school. But give them credit. They opened up the playbook in the second half, and they started blowing them out. I think it was 35-7 at some point, which is, that's what you want to see. You want, I know Middle Tennessee got a garbage time touchdown with like not even 30 seconds left, but you wanted to see the offense put a team away. That's how they do it. The James Mitchell news stinks. He was probably going to be, I think, a day 2, day 3 pick in the NFL draft this year if he had a fully healthy season. Obviously, this means he's going to come back next year. But, it's just a really big loss for a Hokies offense that can't afford big losses right now. He's one of their best players in the passing game, and now they have to rely on Nick Gallo, Trey Turner, Tavion Robinson, and a couple other freshman receivers as well. But, going to Morgantown tomorrow, that's going to be a lot of fun, man. I was so young and the rivalry was really in high gear. Just Morgantown is a weird place. I'm telling you, man, West Virginia fans are truly a different breed. I get why they're favored just because the game is there, but I'm thinking Tech will still win, though it's going to be ugly to say the least. Hopefully the offense is consistent tomorrow. This is their first true road test of the season. After that, if they win that game, they have Richmond the following week. If they win that, they get to 4-0, and we could potentially be seeing almost a top 10 matchup in Blacksburg when Notre Dame comes to town in just a couple weeks. So
yeah, and that's going to be huge, especially because once I think it's after Notre Dame, that's when we have the brunt of our ACC schedule.
Yeah, this is the non-conference. These next 2 games are the last of the non-conference schedule, and then it's all the ACC games.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna be as well. So if we can take care of business in the non-conference, then the ACC is gonna be that much better. So I agree. I think we definitely started off slow at first, but we definitely picked up the pace. The Mitchell news definitely sucks. I think what this means is guys like Tavion Robinson and Trey Turner definitely are going to be a lot more important because they're definitely used a lot more in the run game with jet sweeps. A lot more of Connor Blumrick as used more as a gadget player. So I think it's gonna be interesting. Well, I think Jane, it's gonna be creative with how they do it. I think they can beat West Virginia. West Virginia did. I remember I was watching the West Virginia Maryland game a couple weeks ago. Tua's brother carved them up. So we definitely can beat them on the outside with speed. It's gonna be really interesting to see what they do. Zone coverage. So that's going to give us an advantage. My one concern, though, is going to be near the red zone because that's where a lot of those James Mitchell catches were. Especially in those 3rd and 5s, like when you just need an 8-yard, 10-yard pass, how they're going to game plan on that one. So we'll see what they do there. I think I have them winning. I think it'll be more defensive. I could see 2014 type of situation. 20-14 Virginia Tech.
They have a really good running back.
Tight ends.
Yeah, they have a decent passer. The running back is really good. But if you take away that back, that's going to be, I think, a key one for Tech to win the game.
Yeah, and then speaking of recruiting, we do have some crystal ball predictions for Benji Gosnell, a 4-star tight end. And yeah, so the good thing is that, and I think Brian Doan said that he put out a 7, so that's going to be huge. That's definitely a guy that I was him. But so I mean, I think the key is they need to just treat this as a game. Just don't play mistake-free football. Use the run game. You have their special teams this year has been a lot better than last year. Did you see that of Tavion Robinson? No, I think it was Keyshawn King or Tavion Robinson. They had that punt return, and the amount of yards they gained in that punt return was almost the same as what they did with they got entire year. They got. It's gonna be pretty interesting. That part's gonna be more important. So I think that's what it is. Braxton Burmeister is going to have to open up the field. I mean, he's going to have to open up the field. So I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be defensive. You're going to have to see one of those tight ends step up and not not be Kyle Pitts, but kind of be more like hey, it's 2nd and 5. Can you go catch a 12-yard pass? We just need them to do something like there. And then Richmond, obviously. But also here's the thing. Do you think that some of those plays in the first half were vanilla because they knew they were playing West Virginia next week, so they didn't want to show a little bit of the
That might
playbook.
have been. I think they were also just they figured they would roll all over them, but sometimes teams are they're ready to play, so they may also not have wanted to show a lot going into this big matchup.
Yeah, and I could see next week against Richmond them do kind of doing the same thing. Yeah, we Notre Dame is the big game that we're like Notre Dame like that game. If we can go in and beat Notre Dame, like that's going to really help us because, like I said, for me, one of the keys I said at the start at the year, I think this was one of our earlier episodes, is win enough games to keep our recruits. Because to me, I don't have college football playoff hopes for this team. I have hopes to get to the ACC championship game.
Yes.
But and then and not to get to the start to put a foothold on the Virginia recruiting in the Virginia region. So anything other than that to me is gravy, and I think that's where we'll end the show. We'll see about the time next week, but we should have a show next week. But we'll see. Just check my Twitter account. But we'll see we'll see when that is.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we'll see definitely when we're going to record next week. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll do another one of these pretty soon.
All right. Same thing, and we'll see you next week.